And we left off with chapter 9. So at the end of chapter 8, we had Lux went over to Kendra's house, and quite simply, she admitted that she wanted the serum. So we're gonna see where where I take it from here. My eyebrows look a little weird. All right, chapter 9. Yeah. Why? Lux asks. I don't want to fall behind, Kendra says. Fall behind what, Ken? You. How would you fall behind? Kendra looks down at the ground. Jay, a whole new world just opened up for you. You'll be fighting crime with others like you. I'd like to be one of those people. Why? We could still be friends regardless of what I'm doing. I'd rather be right there by your side, she says. She looks directly into his eyes now. She sees a faint glow, green glow within his pupils. She leans close to his face. Because I'm in love with you. What? He jumps up. Shh. He lowers his voice to a whisper. What the hell are you talking about? Well, I have since 6th grade. Lux puts his hands on his head and paces around the room. Ken, why? Not how I expected you to respond. Well, how the hell did you expect me to respond? My best friend admitting she loves me. It was bound to happen, you know. There's no such thing as a guy and a girl being such close friends without one wanting to be with the other. Romantically, of course, she explains. God damn it, Ken, Lux says. I need some time to think this over. I never thought about you in that way. Hell, I haven't thought about a relationship in a while. Kendra looks down at the floor. Understandable. He trails off before opening her bedroom door and leaving. Kendra sits with her chin in her hands before burying her face in her hands and sobbing. Lux walks the streets once more. He walks the streets a lot, rubbing his head as he treks home. He pulls out his phone and calls Tucker. Hello? Tuck says sleepily. Tuck, Ken just confessed to being in love with me, Lux says. About time, Tucker replies. You knew? You're not too great at picking up hints, man. There's a shuffling sound over the phone. Look, I don't want to wake Ava. Call me later. Let me know how it goes with Kendra. Okay. Later. Lux hangs up. Ava rolls over. So whenever they say bye, it's normally Tucker saying bye, not Lux. I think that's pretty funny because, you know how in movies people normally don't say bye. I already made this joke early in the book, but yeah. Oh, he does walk the streets a lot. Oh, Ken. Yeah, this is kind of sad, Kim. It's even sadder when, well, I'm not going to spoil anything. Ava rolls over in bed and faces Tucker. Everything okay? He rests his hands on his head and looks at her. Yeah. Good. Get back to sleep. We have an appointment tomorrow, she says, rolling back over. Tuck turns to lay on his back and looks up at the ceiling. Yeah. Big day. Excuse me. I normally eat right before stream. Well, not right before, but before streaming. I apologize for all of that stuff. Durante walks to the front door of his store. Isaac and Durante's guards stand watch. Before he enters, he looks at his guards. Sorry about the late night call, fellas. Matt said he needed something done. Shouldn't take long. No problem, boss. We're here for you, one of the guards says. Durante pats him on the shoulder before entering. He turns back to look at Isaiah. Isaiah, you go on home, son. Nothing crazy should happen. You sure? Yeah, I'll be fine. Isaac nods and walks off. Durante enters and 2 guards follow behind him. Crosshair. Crosshair is the mercenary that Ignitro hired to kill his father. He is now across the street on the roof of a building. He takes out a sniper rifle on his back and twists on a silencer. He places his foot on the edge of the building and peeks through the scope. He aims his scope at Isaac walking away. He turns his aim back to the 6 guards at the front door. He lays down the sniper rifle and blinks. His vision changes to infrared and sees that Durante only left guards at the front. He looks around at the surrounding rooftops to see if anyone else is stationed in a different area. He focuses back on the 6 guards. One of the guards patrolling turns around the left side of the building and takes out a cigarette. Crosshair blinks again, changing his vision back to normal. 2 guards stand guard at the door. 2 stand to the right of the building talking. The last patrols in front of the other 2 guards at the front door. The 2 guards at the front door watch the diligent one walk back and forth. You know you don't have to do that, right? The guard on the left side of the door says. It beats standing in place or mouthing off or smoking, the diligent guard says. The guard on the left looks at the one on the right. The one on the right shrugs. The smoking guard takes a puff. He hears a rock kicked. He turns to face the noise towards the back of the grocery store, but all he sees ahead of him is darkness. He cocks his gun. A sharp blade pierces the guard's chest. Only sounds being the shattering of his bones and leakage of blood. It's worded weirdly. You know, normally a smart guard would shout to his buddies about impossible intruder, Crosshair whispers. Guess you're not the smart type. Crosshair withdraws the blade, and the guard watches the blade retract into the top of his glove. He drops to the ground dead. Not my best insult, Crosshair says to himself. Crosshair walks around the back of the building to the side where the two guards are talking on. He blinks, activating his night vision power, and searches for a rock. So it's not goggles he's using. He has visions. He can switch between, like, Superman's X-ray vision, and I think he just has X-ray vision. Moving on. He blinks, activating his night vision power, and searches for a rock. He finds a small pebble and throws it against the side of the building. The two talking guards look in Crosshair's direction and turn to the 3 at the front. Yo, we're gonna check out a noise we heard, one of them says. The patrolling guard nods. The 2 creep into the dark, one slightly ahead of the other. Crosshair sidesteps past the one in the front and stabs the second one in the stomach with his arm blade. He groans in pain. The other one turns around and shouts, "Hey!" The 3 guards rush to the side of the building before they reach Crosshair. He grabs the guard that shouted by the neck and shoots him in the stomach. The bullets come from a barrel attached under Crosshair's glove. So it's the opposite of Deadshot's DC mercenary hitman. Deadshot has guns on top of his arm and knives under. Crosshair has knives on top, guns under. Before they reach Crosshair, he grabs the guard and shoots him in the stomach. The bullet comes from a barrel attached under Crosshair's glove. The guard doesn't have a chance to scream because of Crosshair's airtight grip around his neck. The other 3 guards aim their guns at Crosshair. Instead of running, Crosshair stares at each one of them unmoved. Durante sits at his desk, looking at papers before he looks up. He hears gunshots from the outside. The 2 guards with him pull out their automatic weapons. Isaac, who is around 3 blocks away, turns around and begins running back towards the grocery store. "Gentlemen, get ready," Durante says as he pulls out a Desert Eagle from his desk drawer and aims it at the door. The door bursts open and all 3 of them shoot Crosshair at the door. "Light 'em up," Durante shouts over the sound of gunshots. Click, click, click. All 3 of them are out of ammo. Crosshair stands still in the doorway and watches himself regenerate from the bullet wounds. Durante frowns and the guards stand terrified. Crosshair approaches the one on Durante's right and slices him in the throat. The guard grabs his own throat while simultaneously gasping for air as the blood pours. Crosshair walks around the desk to Durante's left and uses his other hidden barrel to shoot the guard in the head Instead of it being an automatic guns fire, it's a shotguns. The force from the bullet causes the guard's head to explode, splattering the blood and brains onto Durante's white suit. I think it's a white suit. I don't know if I'm going to keep it white. Onto Durante's suit. It just says Durante's suit. I just added the white right now. I don't know if I want him in the white suit, because I imagine him looking similar to the Dr. Daiichi. So, let's continue. Crosshair walks around the desk once more and aims the automatic rifle barrel at Durante's head. Before you shoot me, you son of a bitch, tell me who ordered the hit, Durante demands. Crosshair takes a second before he speaks. Your son. He shoots Durante with a single bullet to the head, killing him. So, maybe Lux's mafia, mobster, gangster problems are over. We'll have to see. Lux sits on the steps of the subject's apartment building. He was going to go home, but he felt that he needed to talk to someone that would understand possibly what he was going through. Excuse me. Tech, with her hands in her hoodie pockets, walks up to him. Lux looks up at her. What are you doing here? She asks. I needed to be out, he answers. What are you doing here? I kind of live here. Right, Lux smiles. Scooch. Lux moves over and Tech sits down next to him. Why aren't you with the rest of them? Lux asked. Not my type of crowd. Yeah, me either. You sure? She questions. Lux looks at her, then he looks back down at the ground. What's up? I don't know what it is, but I feel like I can trust you, Lux says. I know we just met, but that fact that we're still pretty anonymous to each other helps, I think. Tech says nothing, waiting for him to answer her question. You know, I never thanked you all for saving me against... Lux pauses. Wait, what happened to that guy? He got away, Tech tells him. Alejandro screamed him away, and that was the last we saw of him. Screamed meaning his echolocation blasted him away. Like when they stepped up to help him. That's what Sonaro first did. Lux smiles and looks at the ground. Why are you really here? Tech asks. No one would show up at a stranger's house just to thank them. Lux thinks about releasing his burden. His thoughts made him skeptical. The possibility of her using anything he told her against him could somehow prove detrimental in the future. She could be a villain posing as a hero for all he knew. But he went back to his original thought. He felt as if he could trust her. My best friend since the 5th grade just confessed her love for me, Lux replies, and I couldn't reciprocate. That's rough. Yeah, like I said, I just needed to get out, get some air. And you came here of all places? I couldn't think of anywhere else, Lux says. It's not like my mom would completely understand. This whole new world opened up and it's colliding with her. She wants to be a part of this new world and get the serum like I did. Lux places his hand on his forehead in disbelief. I mean, I never really stopped to process the amount of people I've met in the past 2 days, he said. Most of them being like I am now. Superpowered? Tex asks. Lux nods. He stands up and reaches out a hand to Lux. She stands up and reaches out a hand to Lux. Come on, she says. Never gave you the tour. Lux looks at her hand and hesitates. He slowly grabs her hand and she leads them both inside. So this is going into another origin. This is Tech's origin, but it just starts off. Roxy didn't enjoy her own life. She liked to stay out late and think that she didn't ever have to go home. But not being at an independent age kept her from doing so. She also used to do drugs, influenced by her drug addict boyfriend to do so. She actually never became addicted like him, and would do them from time to time just to please him. She also liked the feeling it gave her, the escapism. But their relationship only lasted so long due to the fact that Roxy realized that her boyfriend was much like her uncle in many regards. She was raised by her abusive alcoholic uncle, who lost his arm in a factory accident. They both lived off of his disability checks. He would occasionally beat her after a heavy night of drinking, and she'd show up to school the next day trying to cover her bruises because he threatened to hurt her more if she were to ever tell anyone about it. But one night, she came back and noticed he had been drinking again, but decided it'd be best just to avoid him, and she left him for the night. She wandered the street having nowhere to go because she didn't have any close friends and kept to herself. Close friends would probably try and do something about her uncle. She didn't want him to leave because she felt that it wasn't his fault that he was the way he was. She found a cold but empty bench in the park and decided to rest her head for the night. But this night ended up being one of the longest nights of her life. As she closed her eyes and drifted off into a deep sleep, a bag was thrown over her head. She began screaming, but she was injected in the arm with a sedative to put her back to sleep. She woke up strapped to a cold operating table in a lab in an unknown location. She looked around at the room, noticing it was only a doctor, a young nurse with a cybernetic left arm, and a bodyguard with two cybernetic arms. Roxy struggled to break free, and the three others in the room did nothing to stop her. "You won't be getting out of those, Miss," Dr. Daiichi said calmly, as he pushed the bottom of a syringe that contains a gold liquid, a serum. I don't know whether I had it gold or green. I like gold for this because serums are normally green, so I kind of want to change the color, maybe purple or something. And also, the doctor ain't that good of a guy, as you can guess. Normally, doctors in comics are like sociopaths or something, or trying to do good and does something stupid and messes themselves up in some way, like Dr. Octopus. What the hell is that? Where am I? Roxy asked, panicking, thinking that she'd never see the light of day again. "Well, I cannot disclose the location," Dr. Daiichi said, "but I can tell you that this is a serum developed to evolve humans past the point where we stand now. The invasion further proved to me that humans are much weaker than the other species out there." "Why'd you kidnap me?" "We've actually conducted a little research on you, Miss Norton," Daiichi said, approaching Roxy with the needle. "We found your only family, being your Uncle Brian, and figured he wouldn't miss you if this experiment were to fail, having all those checks to himself. For more alcohol, of course." Roxy tugged at the restraints again. "But if it were to succeed, he would have the power to escape," the doctor said as Nurse Addison walked over and wiped Roxy's arm clean. So she's prepping for an injection and using rubbing alcohol pad. "What do you want from me?" "Well, nothing really. I just need human test subjects," Daiichi said. "The government doesn't give me enough prisoners to test on. Had almost perfected it before with Noble. So this is also proving that Noble was a real thing. She got it. She's receiving this serum after the invasion that was 4 years ago. So this is somewhere in between the invasion and the current present time. With that, Daiichi injected Daiichi. I want to say Daiichi. I don't like Daiichi. I think it's Daiichi. It still sounds similar. Whatever. With that, Daiichi injected the serum into Roxy's arm. In doing so, the serum did nothing to her, and she lay there confused. "I don't feel anything," Roxy admitted. "That's good so far," Daiichi stated. "But now the serum has to be activated until we can get it to a point where it doesn't need to be." I don't know if that makes any sense. Daiichi pointed at a high-tech chamber on the other side of the room. Roxy squirmed again as she looked into the dark corners of the room, bodies of people that looked dead floating in chemicals of a see-through chamber. She could only see 3, but there were probably more. So, little author's note, this is a tease for an arc further down the line in this series. Those 3 people will become very important to the story. But that's like 9 books, 8 books later. It'll be in the 9th book, most likely. I think that one is no, 9 books later. It'll be in the 10th book, titled Trinity. I'm still working on the name, but I think I might go with that name. But there were probably more. What kind of sci-fi bullshit is that? She asked about the chamber Daichi was pointing at. An activation chamber of my own invention, Daichi said. He nodded at artillery, the guard with 2 cybernetic arms, and artillery walked over to the table and wheeled Roxy toward the chamber. Yeah, I know artillery is a bit of a campy name. I want to say campy. But there are only so many names I can choose from or make up that aren't completely alien, that sound sort of familiar. So I just combined artillery and kill. Artillery. There you go. Wheeled Roxy toward the chamber. This is the difficult part. The part where all of my human subjects are killed. But the formula should be perfected by now. Killed, she shouted. She began to struggle harder. I haven't done anything wrong. Don't kill me. It's obviously supposed to be read a lot more dramatic than that, but I'm trying to be multiple characters here. I'm not gonna put effort into reading being super dramatic. You get it. I like artillery's name. I stand by that. Thank you, Kim. I hope for your sake that you do not perish, Miss, Daichi said. But if this succeeds, you will be thanking me. Fucking stop, she shouted louder. Artillery began to untie Roxy to place her in the chamber. She stared intensely at him, thinking about what she could do to escape in this situation. I would not try anything with him, Daichi said, noticing her look. Just a fair warning. All Roxy could hear now was the thumping of her own heartbeat and artillery's heaving breathing as artillery stood her up lightly pushed her into the chamber. She decided she was not going to get in the chamber and die without a fight, so she swung a right hook at artillery's face, but the cyborg caught her hand and twisted it before shoving her into the chamber and closing and locking the door. Roxy slammed on the glass window of the chamber as it lit because of Daichi's button pushing at the control panel. The lights grew brighter, and Roxy found it harder and harder to see. But her main concern became the shooting pain that coursed through her entire body as the chamber activated, the serum in her blood. Most of the pain was concentrated over her left eye as the chamber releases heat to this part of her body as if it were microwaving her. She cried out in pain and dropped to her knees inside the chamber. And when she did this, a wave emitted and pulsed from her body, causing the lights and electricity in the building to shut off completely. So this is similar to what happened when Lux received the serum. The wave also caused the glass in front of her to break. She opened her eyes, only seeing out of the right one, after a brief mental blackout, and saw that alarms and emergency lights were blaring in the lab. The alarms drowned out the sound. Drowned the sound out of Daichi shouting at artillery and Addison to contain her. Roxy stood, and as she did, the lights and power came back on, causing the alarms to shut off. There was still a high-pitched ringing in her ears, and she heard the muffled shouts of Daichi for artillery and Addison to hang back as guards carrying high-tech weapons entered the room. They all aimed their weapons at Roxy as she stepped out of the chamber and away from the broken glass. She heard the muffled screaming of the guards telling her to stand down, but she felt something, the weapons they were holding. She focused on those, frowning as she concentrated, and caused all of the guards' weapons to explode in their hands, killing a few and knocking a few out from shock and the missing chunks of their hands. Goddamn cheap weapons, Daichi said. Addison, remind me to never buy from that ninja mercenary business again. This is a little expositional line. I couldn't come up with a way to tease something else that will be in the next book titled Anticipation, but there are ninja mercenaries, and I like them, but it's kind of hard to fit them in the story because they're from Japan, and you'll understand when I go into their backstories. Addison grabbed a tablet from a nearby table and tried to type on it, but it was restarting. Daichi slowly approached the frightened Roxy. He held his hands out at her as if she were surrendering. Hey, everything's gonna be fine. We just need to do a few more tests to make sure everything is okay with you, the doctor said with a soft voice. Roxy ignored him thing she as the next thing she got was a strong sense of something hidden behind his glasses. I am missing words like crazy. It's making it difficult to read, but it's the unedited version. So she decided to focus on that next and caused whatever was behind Daichi's glasses to break along with the lenses. Shit, Daichi shouted, holding his shattered bionic eye. So before, nobody could see behind his glasses before because he had that whole anime shine effect going on. But now you learn that one of his eyes is bionic. Artillery rushed to his aid, and Addison approached Roxy, ready to subdue her. Roxy, at this point, didn't know how to fight and tried to run instead, but she was grabbed by her neck by Addison's cybernetic tail. I'm trying to think of a tail to compare this to. It's kind of prehensile, like, I can't think of anybody that has a cybernetic tail. Besides anybody from, like, Dragon Ball Z, like Frieza or somebody. Mecha Frieza has a cybernetic tail. But, it's closer to, the design is closer to something like, in the first Transformers movie, I think its name was Scorpion, the Decepticon that was attacking the soldiers in the desert. That's what her tail design is based off of. It can also, the end of it can also, it's like a point normally, but it can also transform into a hand that, both the hand and the pointed tail can shoot beams. But it doesn't matter right now. Addison caused the tail to turn Roxy around and make them face each other. Roxy struggled to break free of the tail's grip and noticed she could focus on this too. But instead of concentrating as hard as she could on it, she tried to manipulate it, and it worked. Addison frowned as she was unable to stop Roxy from forcing her to let go of Roxy's neck. As soon as Roxy was free, she made a break for an emergency exit, but Daichi pushed a button on his control panel that caused an electric door to come down and block the exit. Electric door is crucial in the sentence. Roxy stopped, thinking about another plan of escape, and Addison used this opportunity to chase after Roxy. Roxy jutted out her hand and caused the cybernetic tail, along with Addison, to fly backward and slam Addison against a wall, knocking her out. Roxy then concentrated on the motorized door and forced it to lift up, and she escaped. We should go after her, Artillery suggested, but Daichi shook his head. No, there will be more. If the serum was finally successful with one, I am confident enough in my own genius that it will and can work for others, he said. What if she tells? She has no one that will believe her. It's kind of effed up, because Daichi said he did his research on her, and there's nobody that would care about her if she died, essentially. So yeah, and based on what I read so far, you can guess that her powers are, I think it's technopathy or technopathy, which means she can control technology. The next day at school, Roxy was even more standoffish and cold to others. She kept her hood on for the entire day and got called out by a teacher in her first class, math with Mr. McNeil. There's that name again. This was the same guy. Yeah, oh, that's in the next sentence. Never mind. This was the same teacher Ice Cap would have a year later. He tried to get her to remove the hood, but she rejected his command, and he told her to see him after class. So I see a year later. I have ages for all of these characters, and like I said before, the most difficult or challenging part of this is trying to get everything to match up. Story could be a lot simpler than that, but I don't want it to be entirely simple because then it's too easy to write. I like having a little bit of a challenge with this. So Roxy is a year older than Ice Cap, and we're about to see who else is in her school grade age group too. After class was over, the students got up to leave to head to their next, and Roxy stood facing McNeil at the front of the class. "Can we hurry this up? I'm gonna be late," Roxy said. "I'll write you a late note," McNeil said, being kind as he could have just let her. What? Being as kind as he could have just let her be late. Jesus. What's going on with you? This is the first time I've seen you have an outburst like that. What are you hiding? Roxy reluctantly removed her hood and revealed to McNeil her scarred face. McNeil shared a look of concern. "I don't know if I can exactly tell you," Roxy said. "Was it your uncle?" "I've been hearing rumors about what he might be doing to you," McNeil said. Roxy turned her head and looked at the ground, saying nothing. McNeil patted her on her shoulder, and they both began to walk out. "Come on, don't worry about the late note, because I think there might be some more problems ahead." Over the next few days, it was revealed to the authorities the abuse Uncle Brian had been putting Roxy through. He was arrested and sent to jail while Roxy was placed in the foster system. But she found new foster parents rather quickly. However, she didn't spend time with them either, as she just lost her trust in adults in general. She sat in the back of the room of class, thinking about how much her life had changed for the better over the next few days, but contemplated her feelings of unhappiness. She whipped out her phone and saw that her battery was dying. She took out a charger and plugged it into the wall, but the outlet didn't work. She sucked her teeth, and this quiet noise got the attention of a girl sitting next to her. Roxy raised a finger to the outlet, feeling around for a disconnect with the wires. She felt what the problem was and manipulated the wires to reconnect, getting the outlet to work again. The girl next to her squinted at Roxy, not believing what she just saw. Roxy then turned back around and sighed as she plugged the charger into her phone, and it began to charge. "The outlet hasn't worked all year," the girl next to her whispered. "How'd you get it to work?" I don't think you'd believe me," Roxy said. The student with the brunette, short twin tails leaned towards Roxy. "Try me," she said. She then extended a hand. "I'm Nadia, by the way." So this is a real reveal to the reader. This is Charge, one of the heroes in her group, one of the other two heroes in her group, the subjects. Lux wakes up from the gate. Oh, and that means that I believe Roxy was the last one to get her abilities from the serum, but she's the first story I told because it made sense for how I was organizing it. Lux wakes up from the glare of the sun hitting his eyes from the window. He squints and rubs them before he sits up. Tech walks out of her room, already dressed, into the living room, and she smiles at him as he sits up on the couch. "Morning." "Hey," he says. What's on your agenda for the day?" she asks. "Maybe walk around the streets, patrol, look for trouble." "Mind if I join you?" she asks. No, I don't mind. Cool. But I gotta stop at home, change, brush my teeth and stuff," Lux says awkwardly. "I'll put my shoes on," she says. Tucker and Ava sit in the waiting room. Ava is bouncing her leg like I am now. Tucker looks down at her leg and places a hand on it. She looks up at him, and he looks back. "Hey, it'll be okay, he says calmly. She smiles weakly. "Okay." The nurse comes in. "Tucker Howard, Ava North," she says. Tucker and Ava stand up and follow the nurse into the hallway. They look at her back and see a cybernetic tail poking out from her back. "So, That's another hint. I'm trying to leave hints so the reader can pretty easily figure it out. This is Addison, the same nurse that brought Lux in, and the same one that was choking Roxy out in her origin. Um, so yeah, guess what? They're about to get the serum. Let's continue with chapter 10. We'll see how far we can get before 9. I'm only trying to do an hour of this a day, but it's some sort of reading. Where was I? Okay, chapter 10. So we go into a completely, not completely, but a little bit of a different turn. It's not focusing on any of the heroes we've just met. We're about to go more into what the Alpha Core is. So here we go. Chapter 10. The Alpha Core prison, though in a separate building, is located right next to the Alpha Core keep, where the threats deemed too dangerous to be let out into society are kept, hence the name. However, unlike the prisoners, they are allowed to roam free about the complex without the need for collars or face-to-face supervision. This is where the superpowered ones called May, Detro, Ezo, and Akin are kept. Also, unlike the prison, the building is much more friendly looking with less armored guards, several recreational rooms similar to the Ark base, a cafeteria, and separate rooms for the ones kept there. You just spelled out a sigh. Yes, she's part of the Alpha Core. Thank you for that. I like how you spaced each one of those out, each one of those letters out. Where was I? The keep, the prison, and the headquarters all make up the Alpha Core compound, located just on the outskirts of Haven City, opposite the river and surrounded by forests. The headquarters is where most of the business takes place. There are several labs, conference rooms, and offices that make this building up. This is where Asai, I learned that from the best. Yeah, I do that sometimes just to annoy people. I send each letter of something so they get the notification over and over. This is where Asai spends most of her time, though she watches over all 3 buildings. She's also one of the 6 heads of the organization. The heads put their heads together to make decisions that will impact not only the citizens of Haven, but the people of the world. Dr. Daichi is another one of these heads, but the rest remain in shadow. The prison houses the ones who received the serum but did not follow protocol with their abilities, like Ake, the mugger that was arrested that mugged Lux's mother. The prison is also for those who do not follow the rules and continuously cause problems for guards and others at the keep. For example, Detonade was taken to be a part of the keep, not prison like Lux had originally thought, but he was transported to the prison after, putting it simply, not being able to get along with the others. With the mind of Daichi, the Alpha Core was able to create a power negation collar for those that were held in the prison, meaning those that received the serum with the aid of the collar would have their powers stripped from them so long as they wore it. May and Detro, best friends since they met each other in the keep, decided it would be a good idea to visit the prison to document the prisoners the Alpha Core kept. Excuse me, even though the Alpha Core already has documents on all of the prisoners they keep. They have been in the keep since they were little and believe they've seen everything it has to offer. They overheard 2 guards talking about a new prisoner and snuck out to visit the prison like teenagers do. They stand in front of a darkened cell. May squints to try and see through the glass because she is unsure whether it's reflecting what's behind them or it's causing the cell to be dark. I can't see a freaking thing, she says. She puts her face to the glass and pushes her red lips against the glass. Hello? Mate, back away from it. We don't know what's actually in there, Detro says with concern, although his face reads indifferent. Detro's face constantly looks as if he's always tired and annoyed, though this is not the case. Though he is very indifferent with a lot of things, especially since he's bad with decision making. Do you believe I'm an animal? The voice within the cell bellows. May jumps back in fear. Detro places a hand on her shoulder and steps forward. Her heart skips a beat when he does this, but she looks at his gloved hand, and the back of it reads 0%. This is a hint as to what his abilities are. No, we're just here to document your story. We overheard the guards say that they've never seen anything like you. Silence. We're not even used to humans being kept here, Detro continues. Yeah, that explosion guy was the first one to be kept here, May adds. She twists her face, along with that creepy, smiling thief. More silence. You mind stepping into the light? Detro asked the creature. A brief pause before a hooded figure with the face covered in darkness steps forward. It has a power negation collar around its neck. May raises an eyebrow. He's just some guy in a hoodie, she comments. Looks can be deceiving, May, Detro says. He looks at the figure. Do you have a name? Others refer to me as Archaos. It's a campy name. I like the name. And he has another name, but that's a spoiler, so I'm not going to tell you his other name. Although the creature's voice is unsettling, echoing within the confines of the see-through glass cell, May struggles to hold back laughing, but lets out a chuckle. See, even the characters are laughing about his name. Detro pops her on her shoulder. She looks back at him. What? That's a funny name. Don't be rude, he says. He looks back at the figure. Where are you from, Archaos? Silence before an answer. I am not of this planet. I do not know from where I originate. Then how the hell do you know you ain't from here? May asks. Archaos opens an eye. His only eye. The width of it is almost as wide as the hood itself. May jumps again. Eek. I don't like lines like that, so I might take that out. What the hell? Detro says. So if you're not from here, how did you end up here? I was sent here. Sent to fight 7 superhumans. Do you know their names? I do not. Can you at least describe them? Archaos thinks for a second, indicated with the low grumbling noise before he speaks. A violet-haired one that could control objects with her mind, one who could control his own essence and weaponize it, one who could draw power from the skies, one of red that had the power of speed, flight, and strength, one who could turn the air around him into ice, one who could control the very earth we stand on, and one who could generate fire in any manner. Wait, that last one, could you describe what he looked like? Detro asked. He was wearing garments similar to mine, Archaos answers. So a hoodie, May chimes. If that is what you humans refer to it as, then yes, a hoodie, Archaos says, confirming they have hoodies on places other than Earth. Detro and May look at each other and nod. Ash, they both say. Why were you sent to fight then? Detro questions. Archaos pauses, answering Detro's question very carefully. I do not question the commands of my masters. Masters, so there are more of you, more aliens, like the invasion 4 years ago? Detro asks. Archaos remains silent. Why tell us any of this, May asks. A crescent of jagged white teeth make themselves present below Archaos's eye, flashing his giant smile. I did not receive orders to keep this information from others. My masters told me it did not matter who was told. The coming invasion cannot be stopped. There's another invasion coming, Detro and May both shout. It's in all caps, and there's an exclamation point after a question mark. I'm not going to shout. Hey, you two aren't supposed to be in here, a guard shouts. Detro and May run off as the guard chases them. A phoenix flew through a forest, low to the ground, and eventually slid across the grass and dirt, screeching in pain. A woman clothed in a green dress appeared from the bushes and kneeled down next to the dying creature. The change in tense means it's another origin. Oh, you poor thing, Celeste said. The phoenix closed its eyes and disintegrated into ash. The ashes then began to rise, and Celeste pointed a finger at the pile of ash. The green light shot into the pile as the phoenix came back to life. Now, instead of another phoenix, A human child emerged from the ashes crying. Celeste lifted the baby up and cradled it in her arms, shushing it. The baby stopped crying as heat waves rose from it. And then there's a break. Again, a voice shouted, grunting noises and cracking sounds followed. Again, more noises followed. Again, noises once again. A different voice spoke. Ash, I'm pretty sure that's enough for the day, a trainer said. Not yet, Ash said as he put his hands up and swung at the trainer. Again, the trainer ducked and punched him in the stomach, knocking the wind out of him. Pack it up for today, son, the trainer ordered. Ash breathed heavily in anger before he got up and swung again, accidentally shooting fire from his fists. The trainer shouted in pain and held his face. Another trainer in this gym area pressed the intercom button. We need a medic ASAP, the trainer said. Ash looked at the trainer in the room with him and began to sincerely apologize. Look, when the hell are you going to learn? He shouted as the medics entered the room to care for him. Ash watched from a window as the doctors tended to the trainer's burned face in an infirmary room. Commander Asai walked up behind Ash, crossing her arms. Ash, this is the second time, she said. I think you need to practice using your powers more. You're not in control. For what? Ash said. I was just angry as all. Well, your anger often leads to situations like this, Asai said. Ash stayed silent. We need you in testing room 1. Well, I'll be right there. Just give me a minute, Ash said, staring at the injured trainer. You have to, Asai said before walking away. Ash lowered his head and clenched his fist. He was determined to continue suppressing his emotions. The previous accident with another trainer, he was even angrier, and it left the trainer's skin different. He knew he had to learn to become more stoic. But there were just times his emotions would come out in bursts that he was unable to control. This is why he was okay with letting the Alpha Corps continue to test him and let him hone his abilities. He just found it difficult was all. He was literally made of fire in his past life, so it made sense. So, normally in comics and TV shows and animated shows and movies and stuff, people with superpowers have their powers connected to emotion. In my universe, for most people, this isn't the case. With the serum, it's more science and luck more than anything, and you'll see why. It's a little bit of magic too. But Ash is one of the very few people out of hundreds I have that have his powers connected to emotion, but you'll see why. Normally, emotion is used in my universe to unlock a different form or something. And that's even, I can count on one hand how many characters can do that. But I don't like using that emotion power because I think it's overused, and a lot of people are kind of tired of that whole emotion connected to your powers thing. That dude sounds scary. He's a good guy though. He's just angry and lost is all. But yes, I can see how a guy that shoots fire from his hands and really anywhere on his body, if he's angry, I can see how he could be scary, yeah. Ash stepped into testing room 1, and Celeste watched from a separate room, looking down on Ash with concern. A metal machine popped up from the floor in front of Ash. The tester pressed a button to speak on the intercom. All right, Ash, let's see if you can melt this, the tester said. Ash furrowed his brow and shot flames from his open palm at the robot dummy. He stopped and held his hand out at the tester, wondering if that was all they had to give him. Really? He asked, but the tester pointed back at the robot that was still standing. It was hot to the touch, but it was not melted at all. Ash frowned and gritted his teeth before shooting the machine with flames again. He tried his best to make them hotter, and the fire came out in a larger amount. He stopped the flames and stared through the smoke to see if the dummy was still standing. And sure enough, it was. Ash nearly broke his teeth this time from gritting them before he shot another, even larger larger flames coming from his hands. Through the flames and smoke, he saw that the machine was unaffected, and something in the young Ash snapped. His stoic nature had disappeared, and nothing but pure rage and fire came from him. The fire emitting from him shifted from a bright orange to a light blue. The tester and Celeste looked on with confusion, as they never saw a color change occur in Ash's flames in all of his years of growing up in the keep. This was not the end of it, though. Ash became even angrier as he saw through the flames that the robot stood still. It had begun to melt, but it was still standing there. The flames now switched from light blue to white. When they did, Ash's eyes had flames that flared from his face, and his body as a whole showed flailing heat waves coming from it, burning off the hoodie that he was currently wearing. When the hoodie burned off, bird wings made of the white fire flickered on his back, slightly swaying from the wind the fire was generating. Celeste looked at the tester and told him to shut it down. The tester pressed a button that opened the valve in the testing room and sprayed Ash with water. However, the water didn't even connect with the fire, as the white flames were evaporating the water before making contact. The glass that both Celeste and the tester were viewing Ash through began to melt as they both sweated profusely. The tester's eyes went wide as he froze, not knowing what to do next. Celeste pushed him out of the way and pressed another button on the electrical panel, spraying Ash with an electric fire extinguisher, putting him and all of the flames out. Ash got up and did his best to brush off the extinguisher residue before glaring at the people in the control room and walking out. The tester panted heavily, as he feared for his life just a second ago. Celeste rubbed the tester's back as she scanned the mess Ash left behind. She was able to see into the room clearly because of the partially melted window in front of her. She looked where the machine stood and saw not only was there no trace of it left, but the spot where it was completely melted along with the wall behind it. Luckily, the wall was another test room that was empty at the time. Ash sat in his room playing with his flames, igniting his hand over and over to see if the fire would change color again. There was a knock on his door before Celeste entered his room. "Hey, son," she said sweetly. Ash didn't respond or turn around. "What happened out there?" "Anger," Ash said flatly. "I'm sorry I let it get a hold of me again." "Well, what caused it?" Celeste asked. "The anger." "Being here. The fact that I've been here for 17 years, Ash said. "I feel like there's so much I missed out on." Part of him was lying. The keep was all he knew. He didn't really care about the outside world. He needed something to blame as to why his emotions were raging out of control. Celeste frowned as she thought about how much he even knew about the outside world. Then he realized that he received most of his knowledge through media like movies, news, and social media sites. "I've never made a friend. Never went to a real school, never had a girlfriend," Ash continued. "I feel trapped." There was truth in all of what he said, especially him feeling trapped. He was aware of what he was. He knew that he was different from the normal humans like the guards, testers, and trainers because he had the supernatural ability of fire generation and manipulation. He knew he used to be a firebird, that he would roam the planet doing whatever he wanted, not needing a mate, and when his time came, he would fly low to the ground before eventually passing away. Then, like all phoenixes, be reborn and rise from the ashes stronger with flames brighter. In this universe, mythological creatures also existed, but they didn't just appear like most stories would describe. He asked Apathia where he came from, if it even was Earth, but the Archangel told him that he would know in due time. "Well, you know what you used to be, the free firebird. I know you feel trapped here," Celeste said. "To be honest, so do I." "Then let's leave, Mom," Ash suggested. "You know we can't do that. They'd never stop chasing us," Celeste said. She was lying, but for a good reason. "Then let's find a way to leave this place behind," Ash said, referring to the Alpha Core as a whole. "Well, we have the rest of eternity too," Celeste said, smiling. "Immortality has its perks." She got up and left her son's room, trying to leave him on a good note, but he thought about whether immortality was really a blessing or curse. However, he did not have much time before the guiding archangel appeared before him from a portal. Ash craned his neck to look before turning back around and igniting the flames in his hands. Looking for the changing color again, Apotheal noticed. You won't get that unless there's an extreme emotion present. Good to know, Ash said, dropping his hand and staring at the wall. What do you want? It's not what I want, Apotheal said cryptically. It's what you want. That's deep, Ash says. We are going to meet others like you, Apotheal explained. You are to join me. Ash stood and faced the archangel, glaring him dead in the eyes. And if I don't want to? He asked. But all Apotheal did was raise an eyebrow at the phoenix, knowing his true desire. Ash sighed, lowering his head, and Apotheal opened a portal for the both of them. Ash threw on another hoodie before leaving with them. The both of them traveled to an upper-class house where a twin-tailed brunette stood before them. Ready? Leia asked, and Apotheal gestured with his hand toward the portal. Ash and Leia both followed him through. Next, they appeared before two people who were watching a movie on the couch in their living room. Mila turned to Josh. How long has he been alive? Ash? I don't know. I'd say a few thousand years. But as a human, he's been alive for 17 years. He was a phoenix before he was turned human. So as a human, he's been alive for 17 years. But before, when he was a phoenix, he was just doing his own thing for years. Him and other myths like that are thousands of years old, but I'll explain what they are. It's kind of a spoiler, so I don't want to completely explain it. Next, they appeared before two people who were watching a movie on their couch in their living room. Mila turned to Josh. Pause it, she said, and they both hopped up and joined Ash and Leia on his recruitment journey. Wow, we're the same age? That's not true. That's not true. After Josh and Mila, the five, including Apotheal, transported to a middle-class house with a dead, barren vibe to it. Adam, the lightning wielder, stepped out of his room and entered the living room where the four like him and their guide stood. Maybe this will cheer me up, he said, shrugging and stepping into the portal with the others. So they're getting everybody right now. So chronologically in the book, everybody's origin has not happened, but I think this is towards the end of when they're getting together in their origins. I know it's a little thrown off, but then they appear in the living room of a house that had the opposite vibe from Adam's, very lively and bustling. Chris, the key manipulator, Chris's older sisters were running through the house, yelling at each other because they were late for something. His parents were yelling at each other because they were late for something. Chris sauntered into the living room, hearing the distinct noise Apotheal's portals make, like a sword being withdrawn from a sheath, with a hint of sparkly magic, as Josh described it. Can they not see or hear us? Leia asked, referring to Chris's busy family. If they were to be still, they might, Apotheal explained, but I have masked us. Chris stepped up to join the group, and the portal disappeared once more. They came out on the other end at a certain abandoned location. It was here they met their final teammate, John, the Earth manipulator. They all formally introduced themselves, and Apotheal explained what they were doing together. They all essentially agreed to the terms and conditions, understanding why they've been given the gifts they have. And then a break. Ash stepped back through the portal into his room. His heart skipped a beat when he saw the silhouette of Asai in his doorway. Speaking with the Archangel, she asked. How do you know about him? Ash asked, answering. I know a lot more than you give me credit for, Asai said. I know you were chosen from a few protectors of this city. I already know of the others. The angel introduced me so there would be conflict with the government. You're gonna let me go, right? Ash asked. That's so hard to say. Asking the only question out of the dozens that he had. So long as you stay here until your base is built, I don't have a problem with you leaving, Asai said with a smile. I trust your new friends will be able to keep you under control should your emotions get out of hand. Ash did nothing but flash his teeth, hoping they could. Asai began to turn and walk away, but stopping to ask him two more questions. You gonna say goodbye to the others? She asked, referring to the other younger members at the keep like Detro, May, Akin, and Azo. Ash never really connected with any of them. It wasn't a superiority thing. Though he was older, it's because he was so emotionless around them that they didn't connect with him either. In response to Asai's question, Ash simply shook his head. What about your mom? Celeste was still awake in one of the labs with the scientist. The other scientists had already gone home, but she kept this one here for a reason. It's done, the scientist said, excited that he could now go home. Celeste whispered in the scientist's ear in a slightly threatening tone. Let's hope it works, she said. The scientist couldn't help be being frightening and slightly aroused. That sentence didn't make sense. Right on time, Asai said. Entering the lab with Ash, Celeste turned around, beaming while holding up a blue hoodie Ash's size. Put this on, she commanded. Ash did so. Now light yourself on fire. You know, out of context, that's a pretty insane thing to tell someone, the scientist said. Celeste shot the scientist a condescending look, and the scientist immediately stopped talking. Thank you for your help, she said. That will be all. As the scientist packed up, Ash did as his mother told him and let flames emerge from his body. The hoodie did not burn like all of his other clothes. Sorry it took so long, Celeste said. I know it'd been a while since the last one you outgrew. Ash smiled and hugged his mother while still on fire, but instead of catching fire, the flames grew brighter and hotter in the lab, the both of them emitting flames now. So his mother is special as well. Well, obviously, because she created a baby out of a phoenix's ashes. Yeah. This is some weird shit, the scientist said. Asai shot them a look, and they scurried out. It should be one scientist, because I think the other scientist left. A few weeks later, Ash was out with Josh and Mila, getting to know his teammates when they heard an explosion in the distance. They all exchanged looks and nodded at each other. Josh began to freeze the ground in front of him and tried to skate on the ice to get there, but before he could take a second stride, Mila telekinetically lifted him herself and Ash to float over towards the danger. So again, this is how all of the other origins with the 7 superheroes ended. There's an explosion in the end. And when we get to the last origin of the 7, I think we've gone through 4 now. The last origin goes into detail about what this explosion is that supposedly connected them together and got them starting to fight the hooded figure. How much do we have left? I think we're gonna end it there tonight. It's 9 o'clock and we have over 10 more pages to go in this chapter. So yep, we're gonna end it here. We ended it with the end of Ash's origin, and when we pick up next time, we will be getting more into detail. Well, not more into detail. We'll be continuing with Tucker and Ava's story. And they just got the serum. So I will see you all. I don't know if I'm streaming Friday or Saturday. If I do, it will be earlier in the day. I really doubt I'm streaming Friday at all. Saturday I might stream earlier in towards the morning. Because I have a friend coming over, and Friday night I'm doing something. But I'm trying to see. Sunday I most likely will stream. If nothing happens, 100% I'm streaming Monday. So, yes, if I don't see you all, I probably won't see any of you tomorrow. But if I don't see you guys Saturday or Sunday, I will see you all Monday. Thank you all for watching.